for you. We will jump onto our next presenter, which is David. David, take it away.
All right, thank you, everybody. Welcome again. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. The fact that you're here shows that you guys are getting serious about moving forward. So with that in mind, real quick introduction. I currently work with the County of San Bernardino. I've been with the county for over 21 years, and I currently manage a division that deals in personnel and human resources. So see a lot of this stuff going on in terms of resumes, in terms of job search, and in terms of interviewing. Conducted a lot of interviews over the years, and now I have staff that I train regularly on interviewing and selecting right candidates. So there's a lot of information here, so I'm going to go through some of it kind of quickly. But again, you can access the PowerPoint or the presentation, and you can also reach out to any of us or me after the fact to discuss it more. So Felix, I'm getting some kind of notice that at times my internet connection is not very good. So if I drop, take me over. All right. So first and foremost, dress standards. For women. You should always, use conservative attire. You should be dressed in some kind of suit. Always remember that you want to dress, one step up about what the job dresses normally. So if it's a professional, job, you want to use a pantsuit, skirt suit, some kind of blazer, something nice, something conservative. It should be even colors: black, gray, navy blue. Nothing loud, nothing red, nothing blue, bright blue, nothing crazy. You don't want to divert attention from what you're saying with your outfit. Footwear, heels should be conservative. Flats are not really considered appropriate for job interviews. They should be closed toe. They should be, conservative in general. Heels shouldn't be more than 3 inches, I would suggest. And again, everything that I'm saying goes based upon experience and the things that we observe in the industry in which we work. So these are all suggestions, but you'll get a common theme here in that the more you do, these are all suggestions. You don't have to do any of them, but the more that you do, the more seriously you take these things, the more building blocks, I guess, that you put together, the more successful in the end you can be. So take them for what they're worth, but just know that these are things that are commonly accepted in interviewing and selection. So again, for men, attire, typically, depending on the industry, if it's a tie every day but not a suit necessarily, you should go one step up, be in a suit, dress shoes, slacks, dress socks. Please don't wear white socks with a suit. It's a big no-no. Even though like funky socks are more acceptable now, please no white socks. Again, it takes away from what you're saying. So again, one step up from everything. Grooming, hair and makeup. Women should have their hair, out of their face, pulled back, kind of just so you can see what they're saying. You can focus on what they're saying and not necessarily have hair, coming across your face, covering your face or across your eyes. Men, you should not have hair covering your face or going across your eye or any of that either. You should be, nicely groomed. Beards are a big thing now. They're more widely accepted in terms of interviewing. You can have a beard as long as it's trim, as long as it looks good. But if you're worried about it, if you're worried about your potential interviewer being old school or feeling a certain way about interviewing, don't be afraid to cut off your facial hair. It'll grow back. Women, same thing. Don't be afraid to, groom everything, have everything good. Obviously, men should not be wearing makeup. If you do wear makeup, ladies, keep it conservative. Should not have a lot of eyeshadow or anything else going on. Keep it conservative. Keep it natural. Again, you're not taking away from what you're saying with anything else that's going on. In terms of, perfumes and cologne, the general advice is not to wear them, just because it doesn't help you any. If you're overpowering, if you have a lot of cologne or a lot of perfume on, again, it takes away. It's the first thing that they smell when they see you, and it could bring up a bad memory for them. If you're wearing the same perfume that one of my exes wore, and it's not a very good memory, you instantly set tone in which I don't like you. I'm being facetious, but what I'm trying to say is, the more you do to not draw attention away from what you're saying, the better. Jewelry for women should be minimal, no face stuff. Earrings are fine as long as they're studs or something small, nothing dangling, nothing moving, nothing making noise when you turn your head. Men should have no jewelry in whatsoever. Tattoos, though tattoos are becoming more accepted in the workplace, most places don't want tattoos showing during work. With that in mind, you should have them all covered up. We have a certain standard that we go off, that we use, and that just means that you can have tattoos, but if you didn't take the time or you didn't take the energy or think it important enough to cover them or to minimize them, then it tells me that you're not really taking it seriously. So again, it's just one of those things. Tattoos are acceptable now. Beards are acceptable now. But again, the more you do, you have competition, right? When you're in an interview, you've already gotten to the point, now it's in your hands. There's other people that are vying for the same position. So it's not just you showing them what you can do. It's you separating yourself from the competition as well. And the more serious you take that, and the more serious you get into a routine of doing that, you'll realize that, all the little things that All right, so before the interview, you should be doing research on the company. They talked about earlier, like kind of figuring out what the job description is, what the announcement is, finding out exactly what they're putting out to the public to tell them what they're looking for, basically giving you a roadmap. So, do your research on the mission, on the values, the services they provide, what their purpose is, what their company culture is, organizational culture. Do all of that and try your best to figure out how you fit into that and be able to articulate that in your interview. So start writing notes right away. Location of the interview. Make sure you get the address and you confirm it twice. Make sure you get a phone number of the secretary or the person that scheduled the interview so that you can call and confirm if you have questions. Is there going to be a panel? Is there 2 people? Is there 10 people? Is there 1 person? How many how many resumes are you going to bring with you if you need to bring resumes? So how many reference sheets? So again, doing all this stuff in the beginning, you have to put that work forward. But they're just things that the more you get into a routine, the easier they become. So again, figure out the location. If you're not sure about where it is, you've never been there, if you're traveling a long distance, make sure that you give yourself ample time. If it's local, drive it. Drive it. If you're going to have an interview at 9 a.m. the next morning, 9 a.m. the day before, drive it. Just see if there's traffic, account for whatever. Just get familiar with the area if it's not too far. Again, little things. How serious are you about it? Convictions. If you have convictions, be able to be prepared on how you're going to explain that in a job interview if it comes up. It doesn't come up as much anymore until a job offer is made. That's the rule. That's the law now. So just be able to articulate that though, if in the event it comes up. And practice. It's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't feel like they have to practice. I'm telling you, the more you practice, the more you say things in your head, the more you stand in front of a mirror, the better it becomes. It becomes much easier to say it. Our natural tendency as human beings is, well, for most of us, is to not want to brag about ourselves, right? So we typically don't want to brag about ourselves. We don't like talking about ourselves. It feels uncomfortable. But that's what you're doing in an interview. You have no choice. You have to do that. You only get a certain amount of time to put on an impression. So get comfortable with talking about your good traits. You're not bragging. You're not being boastful, but you do have to articulate and convey to them what it is that you bring to the table. So identifying those things, practicing, get with a friend, do all of that, and get your attire ready the first night, or the night before. Get everything lined up, get everything ready, make sure that you're ironed up, make sure there's no stains that you didn't account for. I just got a shirt back. I had just bought a shirt, and put on my shirt, you know, sometimes it's dark in my closet when I get ready in the morning, put on my shirt, and I realized it was like a pink shirt. It was like a magenta, but there was like stains on the arm right here, and they were subtle, but you could tell they washed it with something else, and it was there, and I couldn't get out. I didn't realize it until about 3/4 of the day, through the day. So that would have been embarrassing. So just make sure that your stuff's good. Do it the night before. The less you have to account for in the morning, the better. Felix. All right, set the tone. Arrive early. How early should you arrive? Anybody? No? Well,
15 minutes.
15 is good. I say 20. I think anything more than 20, you're overdoing it. But 20 is good. See, in the county and a lot of public sector jobs, what they'll do is they'll give you paperwork while you wait. They'll give you the questions most times in advance. So the more time you have to fill out some certain paperwork, reference sheets, get the questions, you know, get your head together, the more time you have to do that, the better off you are. So 10 minutes is not enough. Anything over 20 minutes is too much. I think 15 to 20 is good. So let's call it 17 and a half, Karen. All right, so when does the interview begin? A lot of people don't really fully understand when the interview begins. A lot of people say when you wake up in the morning. A lot of people say when you walk through the door. The interview starts when you pull into that parking lot, okay? I'll never forget my first job with the county. You know, I pulled up to the interview not knowing like where I pulled up. I just pulled up. When I got out and I was, you know, making sure that I was good and I was, you know, kind of doing my affirmation, I was right in front of the person's office that was doing the interviews. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't figure it out till, you know, down the line after I was hired. But people look at that. You know, you don't think they do. So when you're in there, when you're in your car and you're doing your thing, you're preparing yourself, you're getting your paperwork ready, you know, don't do anything funky, you know, don't be rocking out to the music, you know, just be conservative, you know, and then as soon as you get out of that car and you walk into the, you know, you're there now. So I put come in energetic and positive. That just means, you know, be positive. You know, be smart about it. Don't come in, you know, all revved up, but just come in positive, come energetic. Hi, how are you? Good morning. You know, how you doing? But don't overdo it. Be good to everyone. That means that when I first initially started doing interviews and hiring people, I would go to our receptionist and I would always ask her, how did they come in? How were they with you? Because that tells you how people are going to be. So there were people that, I kid you not, we thought they might have been the best candidate or interviewed well. They didn't get the job because of how they were with the receptionist, and that's truth. So just if you're giving a funky attitude to certain people, and then when you see the people that are doing the interview, oh, hi, how are you? You know, and then that's really disingenuous. So be good to everyone. Positive reinforcement, you'd be surprised. And this is a normal thing, and you guys should all be into this. I think everybody should be into this. Talking to yourself, giving yourself positive reinforcement, talking about how great you're going to do. You know, I'm going to say this, I'm going to knock this out. I'm going to be just positive. Don't, you know, everybody's going to be nervous. Everybody's nervous before an interview, but the more positivity that you can bring with you, it really does translate. I'm telling you, it really does translate. So a firm handshake, eye contact, don't overdo it. You know, don't hold on to someone's hand more than a couple seconds. And when I say eye contact, you know, I don't mean eye contact. I just mean a good, you know, solid eye contact, you know, with the handshake. Again, these little things, you know, they set the tone for the interview. So keep that in mind. Practice these things, get in the habit. Have your resume, your letters of recommendation, your references, all that stuff ready. That should have been done long before the job interview. Felix? All right, so again, it's okay to be nervous. Don't, you know, everybody's going to be nervous. Good interviewers that select good candidates will try their best to set you at ease. They'll try their best to not make you more uncomfortable. They'll smile. Okay, so when you're nervous, you know, okay, let me just say it like this. Anytime in life, well, typically when you smile at somebody, what happens? They smile back. And when you're in a nervous situation or you're in an awkward situation, you smile at somebody. If they smile back, it's almost like you make a connection, and it takes away a little bit of the edge. You're not going to be perfect after that. You don't have to be perfect. But what you do need to do is be positive, be energetic, and try your best to convey that confidence. Okay, we're looking for people that are confident. So again, this goes back to the next bullet is basically saying, don't tell them, don't just tell them what you are. Explain how it relates. So you should have already looked at the job announcement or job requirements, or the preferred or desired candidate will have A, B, and C. You should already know that. So in advance, you should be identifying your transferable skills and how they relate to that job. So don't just say, I'm dependable, I'm this, I'm punctual. How does it relate to the job? How does being dependable relate to this job? How does being punctual relate to the job? Well, it may not. I'm good with Excel. How does it relate to the job? I can do A, B, and C in Excel. I've done it I've done it for years. I can, you give example. So again, look for your transferable skills, how they relate to the job, and then go with those and make sure you're hitting those marks throughout the interview. Beware of the weakness question. I'll go over that. Go with the flow. If sometimes in interviews, things happen. Sometimes someone will knock on the door, or there'll be a phone call if you're doing it in someone's office, or things happen. But go with the flow. Don't let things like that disrupt you, or do your best to not let them disrupt you. Smiles and eye contact. That's through the whole interview. When you're talking to somebody and you're explaining to somebody about yourself, your good qualities, make eye contact with them. You should not be shifty-eyed. You should not be looking other directions. Again, it's disingenuous. So make sure that you stay focused on eye contact, and just continue to be yourself. Nobody's perfect. Don't tell them what you can't do. That just goes back to the resume thing. A lot of you guys don't have a lot of experience. We don't care. Okay, we don't want to hear what you can't do for me. I don't want to hear what you don't have. I need to hear what you do have. So it's time to figure out how to parlay everything that you have, everything you've done, every skill that you feel strongly about. How do you get that? How do you articulate that and get that out? That's like the 6th time I said articulate. So again, how do you get it to the point where you can get it from your mouth to their mind? So again, don't tell me about what you can't do. Tell me about what you can do for me. I don't care what you can't do and what you haven't done. What have you done? How does it relate? And how does it help me? Felix.
Let's pause for a couple of questions, David. Someone's asking, when you're hiring, what do you take more serious? A person who exceeds the criteria but wasn't such a great interview, or someone who is missing some of the criteria but more likable, maybe for like a technical position? And then the second question would be, how do you answer what is your strengths or weaknesses?
Good questions. The first one, I'll tell you like this. It depends on the type of job, and I think many of you will be going into quote-unquote entry-level type positions. So especially with fresh out of college with a degree, or fresh off degree, the most important thing for me, and what I've learned is more which is more successful, and what's been more successful hiring practice for me and for us, is the desire. Everybody can learn a job, especially if it's more entry level, or if it's something that takes a while to learn. People can learn. We understand that. If you can get a degree, more than likely you're going to be able to learn the job, right? So you can be trained. So the experience isn't so much the issue. The person that expresses a desire for the job and expresses a genuine connection. Like a lot of the job interview is about fit. How are you going to fit in my organization? How are you going to fit with the people I already have, with my culture? How are you going to fit in? So somebody that's generally even keeled, not too high, not too low, enthusiastic, those things go a long way. So for me anyway, for us, we look for enthusiasm. We look for the actual desire. You'd be surprised. Everybody thinks that because someone's at a job interview that they really want the job. That's not the case. Not everybody's there because they really want the job. Some people just need a job. We all need the money, right? I mean, that's why we're there. We all need to work. We know that. That's an understanding that we have going into it. However, Do you really want this job? Do you really want to help me? Do you really want to help us? And have you conveyed that? So stick with that, roll with that, do your best to be likable. It's not so much about what you have, what you've done. Now, if it's a job that requires more experience, I need you to convey that, and you need to be able to answer additional questions in how they relate to the job, because I'm going to get in the weeds with you a little bit to see how you respond. So again, it's not just about what's on your resume, what's on your application. It's how do you convey what you're trying to say. If you can make a strong point with your words, and you can, you know, if it's a position that's going to have a lot of interaction with directors and you know, human resource folks, I need you to be able to make that point and be able to handle yourself accordingly. So I hope that answers that. I know I went a little further, but weakness question, we will get to that. Strengths question, again, is really simple. Strengths, you should be talking about strengths that they're desired for in the job announcement, or what you've already figured out in your research. And you need to back them up with specific examples. And we'll get into that slightly too. Behavioral shift, this is just talking about how employers are going from what would you do if to how to tell me about a time where you had to deal with this and how did you handle it, what was the outcome. So, you know, we're getting to a point where you should have enough experience. You should have experienced something in particular that you may experience in this job, but how did you handle it? So it's basically a thing to where you need to start thinking of examples and how you handle something. You need to have anecdotes. You need to have real life experience to convey to them and articulate to them how you handle it and were successful in handling. Felix, are there any questions that I'm missing? Okay.
No, I think our team is doing a good job of answering questions, and we'll bring them up if you need something.
Okay. So the STAR method, I'm not going to get too far into this, but it's exactly what I've been talking about. If you're describing a situation and you're talking about something that's applicable in an interview, describe the situation, go over the task, explain the goal. What were you trying to do? What was the point of the situation? The action. Tell me what action you took. What did you do to fix the situation, to handle the situation, to be successful in the situation? And then tell me what the result is. What was the outcome? What was the end, you know, the end game for that? What happened moving forward? You know, how did it affect you, you know, the organization? How did it affect anybody? What did you learn? So that's the STAR method. You know, you can read about that anywhere, but it's very effective in terms of telling anecdotes, telling stories, giving examples, real life examples. That's what I want to hear. You know, I want to know how you can handle a real situation. If I'm going to hire you, I need to know how you're going to react in these situations. Felix? All right, the weakness question. So the STAR method is how you answer for strength. So if you say, I'll give you a quick example. If you say that I'm a really strong multitasker, talk about a situation in school, in your volunteer experience, in your internships, in your personal life, if it's applicable, and don't get too far in personal life, but talk about a time that you had to be a multitasker, how you had to handle multiple things at one time. Did you plan an event? How did it go? What was the situation? So that's how you emphasize your strengths. You should always give examples. You can't just say, I'm good at multitasking. You gotta tell me how. Tell me how you are. So the weakness. The reason they're asking you a weakness question is that we're basically asking you to disqualify yourself. So interviews are more about disqualification or disqualifying people or weeding people out than they are finding the perfect candidate. So the reason they're asking you, they're basically telling you, come on, tell me how I can disqualify you. So be leery of that. Don't deny, don't say, well, I don't have any weaknesses. They don't want to hear that. That sounds ridiculous. Everybody has weaknesses. Don't joke, you know, don't tell jokes about weaknesses, and don't tell them about your problems. That's pretty straightforward. They don't want to hear about your problems. Well, my biggest weakness is, you know, I just broke up with my boyfriend, or, you know, my girlfriend, you know, I take too long to get ready. And they don't want to hear that, okay? They want to hear actual thing. So you got to do your best to identify what sounds like a weakness and turn it into a strength. I put some examples here. Perfectionist, you know, I might spend a little too much time on the project, you know, on certain projects, but I like to get it right, you know, done right the first time. You know, that sounds like you're talking about a strength, weakness, but in actuality, it is a strength. You know, I take too much pride in my work. You know, at times I can be too passionate about work, and I can be really hard on myself if I don't get it exactly perfect the first time. Those are ways to turn a weakness question into a strength. You have to be really careful though, okay? You have to make sure that you're not saying something silly or saying something that doesn't fit. No breaks. So a good one that I like enjoy hearing is, you know, sometimes I get so immersed in my work and I forget to take my breaks, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to get better with that. It doesn't happen all the time, but at times I do get too focused on my work. So again, you want to avoid actually just saying a strength when they ask you about a weakness, because it sounds like you didn't understand the question. But you actually have to use something that sounds has a negative maybe denotation, but we both know that it's not. We all know that it's not. So again, are you processing the question that I'm asking you, and are you responding appropriately? So stay away from unrealistic traits or over-promising things on the weakness question. Just do your best to just not say ridiculous things. That's really what I'm trying to say. Felix? So again, you know, for many of you, I'm being direct because really playtime's over. You know what I mean? It's time to get to work. It's time to do your thing. Not that school is playtime. It's just, it's a different world now. You're entering into an arena that is much more competitive, and you know, the hungriest gets the apple. So it's not what you can't do. Don't want to hear what you can't do. Tell them about any experience that you have. Talk, you know, emphasize your education. You know, if you had a difficult situation in your education and you were going through it, talk about that. You know, how it made you a better person. Volunteering experience. Again, personal, be careful. How do these things relate to the job? Be able to use everything that you say in an interview, every word that you talk about yourself, be able to relay it back to the job. How does it help you in the job? Why am I going to trust you with this position? And, you know, how does it help you? Felix? Close the show. I mean, basically, I just said, look, you have to follow. At the end of the interview, they're always going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? That always comes up, right? Don't just say, no, I'm good. You pretty much explained everything. This is an opportunity for you to reaffirm to them, or, you know, to show them that you want the job. You know, show me that you want the job. Don't, you know, take an interest in my company. Take an interest in what we do. Ask legitimate questions, substantive questions. So what's a day in the life of this position? Like, what would, you know, an ideal candidate be for this position? You know, what do you like about your organization? Talk about the research you did. You know, I noticed when I researched your organization that you guys are really heavy into, you know, doing charity work and something like that. You know, how would that look? You know, how would it look to, you know, to get involved with that? Something like that. Show an interest. Show me you want the job. You have to separate yourself. Okay? You have to sell yourself. This is your moment. Once they ask you if you have questions, that's your moment to close the show. So don't forego it. Always ask questions that relate to the job. Always ask when they will be making their decision, or when you can expect to hear from them. Why do we ask that? Because if they say we're going to make a decision in a week, but you don't know that, you know, a few days may go by and you're just going to be kind of left twisting in the wind. If you know it's going to be in a week and you want to follow up with a phone call or an email, you know that you got to wait at least a week, maybe a little longer. So you always want to know. You don't want to be twisting in the wind. You want to know more or less when they're going to make the decision or when they're going to have second interviews. So do not ask about time off, salary, benefits, anything like that in an interview. When do you ask those questions? When you have a job offer. So when they offer you the job, then you can actually, you know, negotiate. So firm handshake, thank them for their time, get their names. You know, you can send thank you cards. You know, you can do a lot of things. You can send follow-up emails, thank you emails, thank them for their time. Make sure that you do it appropriately. Felix?
And I think that's, I was going to say, we have gone over time, so I'm not sure if what we want to do is maybe just include these slides, all of the slide deck for after the recording, and that way you can all look over it.
David, is there anything that you want to focus on, what you have left?
No, I just want to remind everyone that employees are a superstar for time. Keep your resumes appropriate, keep your answers appropriate. Remember that everyone starts for time. We're looking for things that are important. Don't spoil yourself. Do all the little things to make yourself more marketable in an interview, and do your best not to disqualify yourself. Do all the little things. They all add up. They all make a difference. And best of luck. My information is there in the next slide, I believe. If you guys have more questions, you guys want to email me, call me, whatever, feel free. I know I sped through some of it. There's a lot more we could talk about, but ultimately, I just want you guys to take away the main things. So